QPR returned to Championship action this Saturday with a first trip to Wrexham since September 2003, so I caught up with Andy from the Fearless in Devotion podcast to get his views on the Red Dragons' record summer transfer window, start to life in the Championship, and expectations for the season ahead. As usual, I'll also be giving my own thoughts on the R's at the end too, so make sure you stay tuned in for that. If you're new to the channel, I'm Connor aka Hoopser, and I talk all things Queen's Park Rangers here on YouTube and in podcast form, so if you enjoy this match preview, please consider hitting like and subscribe, and let's get into it. Hi Andy, thanks for joining me for this Wrexham v QPR preview. How are you, first of all?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, international break. What a you don't quite know what to do with yourself. I know we're recording this before the match, so I'm going to miss the championship for a weekend.
Yeah, I'm glad it's not just me feeling like that. It's amazing how much slower the week feels when there's not a game to look forward to at the weekend. But yeah, we're back in action the following weekend. Now, Wrexham picked up their first win in the second tier since the 1981-82 season, just before the break. A 2-0 victory away at Millwall. How are you feeling about the start to the season so far?
I think we just needed to feel our way around it a little bit. A lot of people said that there's a massive difference between League Two and League One. I didn't see that, but what I did see was a huge difference between League One and the Championship. Straight away, I know we played Southampton first, and it was quite hard to gauge where we were on that because Southampton had just come down from the Premier League and had like 30-40 million pound players on the bench. Then we played West Brom, and I always thought West Brom was a better barometer of where we actually were. And we matched them for a little bit, but they just had the little bits of quality that we didn't. And I think our team's still knitting together. It's been quite a big rebuild job with 13 new signings coming in. So we steadied a little bit. We definitely should have won against Sheffield Wednesday, but we let them back into it. But Millwall was a game I always had a sneaky suspicion we might do quite well in, just because two quite physical sides, and I think we just had that little bit more quality. The sort of £8 million players we brought in that they didn't. So overall, I'm pretty happy. If you'd asked me after the first two games, I would have thought we're in for a very long season, but I think we stabilised a little bit.
Now, you mentioned those 13 signings. Wrexham spent in the region of £30 million this summer, a remarkable outlay, having only just broken the £1 million barrier on a single signing back in January. How do you feel about the signings you've made, the investment that's gone into the squad?
I think it was needed. I think they realised that. I think it's tinged with sadness because we're saying goodbye to players who've come up with us from non-league, 2 or 3 promotions. And it's sad to say goodbye to them because they've been great servants for us, and we feel quite connected to them. And we don't feel as connected to this new crowd. But what I can say is he has strengthened every position, sometimes twice. He's brought in some very good players at this level, and he's also brought in some a bit unknown, a bit of an X factor. So we've signed Liberato Cacace from Empoli, which is a name on no one's lips before we actually got him. He's a New Zealand international, and he looks a very good player. And I think we paid about $2 million for him. He's a sort of player at 23, 24. You could see a good outlay on him, good return on him. And it's nice to have those players where you're buying them with a view to the long term, rather than what we had been doing to get ourselves through the league, which is spend a lot of money on a 28, 29-year-old, give them a long deal, and then lose them for nothing at the end of it because there's no resale value.
Now, I've seen a lot of debate about what success looks like for Wrexham this season, given that spend. For most promoted clubs, it's all about survival in the first season, but most aren't usually able to spend in the region of what Wrexham or Birmingham have been able to do. So what's your view? What would be a good season?
So if you ask me, you're right, it's survival, it's stabilising, because while there's a lot of good things happening on the pitch, off the pitch, we still don't have a training ground. It's a three-sided stadium at the moment, so there's a lot of catching up to do there. So while I would say that, I'm not Ryan and Rob. Ryan and Rob are looking to go back to back. They want us to be in the promotion mix, and that's why they put their money where their mouth is. And have really sort of loosened the purse strings to bring in these 13 players. So I think they're aiming a little higher. I think they would be upset if we weren't pushing towards the playoffs. But it's such a tough league that you could lose 5 on the bounce and be in the relegation zones, but you win 6 and you're looking at that playoff place again. That's why it's so exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Turning to Saturday then, which players should QPR be worried about in this Wrexham team, and where might Rangers have some joy?
So I think if you attack us down, Parky plays a 3-5-2, and he always plays a 3-5-2, and he always will play a 3-5-2. So Sheffield Wednesday were quite canny in changing their formation 2 or 3 times during the game and eventually caught us out. I think Championship managers and Championship players are adaptable enough to do that during a game until they find joy against us. So, for example, against Sheffield Wednesday, we battered them in the first half, but then they adapted. They get Barry Bannon a free roll, and then they could have easily quite won it. So our inflexibility is probably somewhere you can get us. You can attack us. But Parky's plan A is a pretty good one. Now, he's brought in Kiefer Moore, which a lot of people sort of went, £2 million for a 33-year-old. Is that sensible business? Well, Kiefer Moore is many teams' plan B or plan C, but he's our plan A. And we build the whole team around Kiefer Moore, and we get the best out of him. And what I've been pleasantly surprised about him is he is a 90-minute player. I thought he was just the sort of guy who comes on for 20 minutes at the end of a match when you're chasing it, or does your first 60 and then you try something different. We've played him all the way through. He's quicker than I thought he was. He's more mobile, and he gets his head in where it hurts. As an example, against Millwall, where he got a black eye scoring the opener. So Moore is a threat. I think coming off him is where we're trying to sort it. We brought in Nathan Broadhead, but he's injured at the moment. Windass is injured, Josh Windass from Sheffield Wednesday. So we're playing Ryan Hardy, who's more of a natural sort of striker rather than a split striker, a number 10. So interesting to see how that carries on. Interesting to see how far Windass is from fitness and if he might feature against you guys. I think going forward, Moore and Windass in their 30s, very experienced at this level. I think that's where Parky will look to really have most success this season.
And where do you think that QPR could have some joy against this team? Where do you see the sort of weaknesses in the Wrexham side?
Well, apart from the inflexibility, I mean, playing a 3-5-2, it means we live and die on our wing backs. Our wing backs are sometimes quite far up the field, so there is spaces to get in behind there. I think at the start of the season, we were bringing up 2 defenders who'd come up with us. Well, Max Cleworth had come up with us from non-league. So he was finding out about the Championship. I think he's improved in the last couple of games, but he's still quite young. I think on the other side, we had Lewis Brunt, who we bought from Leicester. He was struggling a little bit, but we've since brought in Callum Doyle from Manchester City, and he looks class. He looks the real deal. He's very good at opening up teams with his passing, but he can defend as well. So you should have played us 2 weeks ago.
Well, Andy, thank you so much for joining me for this preview. Finally, let's round off with your score prediction.
Oh, it will be tight because I think all games in the Championship will be tight. I'd like to think we can get our first home win of the season. I think only by the odd goal, so maybe 2-1. I think maybe we might go 2 ahead, but then you'll come back and you'll make it really nervy in the last 10-15 minutes. But I'm hoping that we can get our first home win.
Well, Andy, thank you very much again, and all the best for the rest of the season.
Thanks very much. Cheers.
Big thanks to Andy once again for joining me for this preview. Make sure you give him a follow and check out the Fearless in Devotion podcast down below. So, the first international break of the season is finally out of the way, and another block of 5 Championship fixtures await QPR starting in North East Wales this Saturday. In many ways, the pause came at the perfect time for Julian Stefan and his squad following their first win of the season against Charlton Athletic. Getting that off their collective back after a tricky start to the campaign, to say the least, will have certainly been a relief for all involved, and a fortnight on the training pitch, be it at Heston or on international duty will surely make a difference to the sore lack of match fitness we witnessed in those opening games. Jimmy Dunn, Isaac Hayden, Keely Adamson and Reece Norrington-Davies have all been away with their respective nations, while Kieran Morgan made a thoroughly deserved England under-20 debut against Italy under-20s last Friday. The most fascinating thing about this weekend for me though is how Stefan approaches this fixture, because within just 5 matches he's already been forced to learn the same lesson as his predecessor and go back to basics. And whether he liked it or not, that pragmatism won him his first 3 points as Rangers head coach. It was by no means a perfect performance, but it did show that by removing the elements of the game that this team are less comfortable with and leaning more into their strengths, they do have a chance of competing in this division. Stefan said himself post-Charlton that these were tweaks rather than a permanent evolution of his approach, but given how much we've struggled playing from the back, it would take a brave man to immediately reinstall that a game later. That's why I find this game so intriguing, because how QPR set up will be very telling about how the Frenchman has reflected on his time at the club so far during this break. What we have from the Charlton win is a platform to build upon, and as evidenced in that game, there's now more depth for the head coach to choose from, hopefully soon to be further bolstered with Mickey Frey, Jake Clark-Salter and Kwame Poku touted for returns to training during these past 2 weeks, though news around Elias Chair has remained silent. So let's round off with a score prediction. As Andy said, probably not the best time to come up against Wrexham, given they also picked up their first league win before the break and made further additions before the close of the transfer window, though you can make that same argument for Rangers the other way round too. Given Wrexham play a 3-5-2, there's going to be space down the flanks which could suit Koki Saito should he come in for a first start as a permanent QPR player. And there is also scope for Stefan to mirror that formation too at some stage of the game, having opted for 2 up top to great success late in the game against the Addicts. There's been plenty of goals in all of Wrexham's games so far too, and with Kiefer Moore in form for both club and country, and Richard Kone with 2-2 for Queen's Park Rangers, I don't think this is going to be an exception. So I'm going for a 2-2 draw. So what about you? What's your score prediction? Please let me know in the comments down below. And if you've enjoyed this match preview and you're new to Hoopsa, please consider hitting like and subscribe as well. Thank you so much for tuning in, and hopefully I'll catch you next time for my Wrexham match reaction. Come on, you Oz.